Frugalsim videos are powered by Jetline Systems.
Hello YouTube, this is Frugal, and this is the DCS F-18 Hornet. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about on-speed angle of attack, which is something absolutely vital in most military jets, actually, when you come into land, but particularly in carrier-based jets like the Hornet. Now, I'm not going to take entirely full credit for everything in this video. I struggled massively with doing proper patterns and carrier landings and all that malarkey and trying to get on-speed angle of attack and maintain it throughout a landing pattern, to the point that I was just crashing and crashing, getting so frustrated, and today decided to research it and study it. I got all my tips in this video from a chap called Lex. Now, I think Lex has stopped making videos, which is a terrible shame. He's a Harrier pilot, and he did a video on speed angle of attack, and I learned a lot of this stuff from him. His video is linked in the comments, or sorry, in the notes for the video below. But I'm going to kind of give you the gamer slant on this as opposed to the professional pilot slant. First of all, a couple of things to be aware of. Look at the HUD there. See the ladder in the center of the HUD? That is caged. What that means is, look, if I press the cage button, it's the weapon cage button, incidentally, that's uncaged. And the HUD will actually offset left or right based on what's happening in the world around you. So I actually have a bit of a crosswind. You can see the HUD ladder is offset to the left. If I cage it, it snaps it back to the center. That's absolutely vital for managing a proper approach with the Hornet or any other military aircraft like the Harrier and stuff like that, because the last thing you want is that HUD slipping out of view as you start a turn. So first of all that. Now, I'm going to pause this and we're going to jump outside. The reason we're going to jump outside is we're going to talk about what angle of attack and on-speed angle of attack is. Now, I'm still not 100% certain on the math and the physics behind angle of attack and on-speed angle of attack. But what I will tell you that I picked up from Lex's video is, in the Hornet in particular, it is vital you have the correct on-speed angle of attack in your approach because of that thing at the back. That hook. Look at the shape of that. It has a curved hook on the end of the bar there. If that's at the wrong angle, so if you're too inclined, if you're pointing up too much, for example, you're not likely to catch the wire. It's just going to bounce across the deck. If you're too shallow in your approach, you could end up with that not catching at all. And then in the worst possible case, also, if you're too inclined, is that the hook will catch a wire before the wheels are on the deck and you'll slam down into the deck, which is not pretty. Other than that, though, in most military aircraft that do the on-speed angle of attack type approach, you will find that, if we look at commercial jets like the 737 and the 747, we have VREF speeds and V approach speeds and all that good stuff. Don't typically get them in a jet. You could work them out, of course. You could look at the stores page and figure out how much weight is on board the aircraft and the weather conditions, yada, 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 and figure out what the correct approach speed and touchdown speed and all that stuff should be. But what you will find is if you have a correct on-speed angle of attack during your landing, which is to say, back in the cockpit here, this indicator here, what's called the donut, the circle in the center, is lit up but nothing else is. If you have that and you have the correct vertical speed, everything else will be correct. So that is to say that if this is lit and this is correct, say you want to land at 250 feet per minute rate of descent, you'll find that your actual speed here is absolutely correct for the weight of the aircraft, and you will have a perfect landing every time. Now, the problem I had, if we look at a carrier pattern, what you're supposed to do, or a typical landing pattern in a Hornet, you're supposed to do is, you can call it a circling approach. I think the RAF call it a run in and brake, but you fly parallel to the runway and then you brake around, and on that downwind, so coming back parallel to the runway, you want to be at 600 feet here, on speed angle of attack here, everything out, so flaps and gear ready to go, and that's where you want to be. And then you do that turn off of the downwind, round onto final, and in that phase there, you're maintaining the correct on-speed angle of attack, but you're descending. And the idea is you start at 600, you're going to roll out over here at 300, and then manage the landing as you normally would. The tricky bit I had was getting that initial on-speed angle of attack. So that's what I'm going to show you in the first part of the video. Here we are at 20,000 feet. I'm going to turn around, I'm going to descend to 12,000 feet, get on-speed angle of attack there, and then maintain that descending to 10,600, which is 600 feet above my 10,000 hard deck. So simulating that downwind leg. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, the key, before we get into all of that, the key is actually trim. and I'll try to talk you through it. I might pause the video. I don't want to copy what Lex did. His video is absolutely incredible, but I might pause it just to slow things down and talk you through it. But let me unpause it here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring my power back to idle. I'm going to put the speed brake out, and I'm going to turn around to that 180. So I'm going to simulate that I'm getting onto the downwind leg. You can see I'm descending now about 6,000 feet per minute. Hell of a rate of descent. It is a fighter, so why not? Coming around to 180. There. So I'll roll out now. My speed is down to 280. At 250 I can deploy flap and gear. So we're descending quite well. Now, the circle with the line in the middle. I can move my mouse while we're doing this. This thing is your flight vector. It basically shows you where you will crash. Okay, so if I were to continue like this, I would crash right about that point on the ground there. That also shows you whether you're climbing or descending. If you put this level with this bar here, you are neither climbing or descending. So when we level out, I'm going to try to put that flight vector in the middle of my velocity, my pitch ladder here, which means I'm not descending or climbing. Now we are under 250, so I'm going to knock off the speed brake now. We don't need that. There it goes. So speed brake's off. And we'll continue descending down. A little bit jerky on that pitch ladder today. I think it's because I'm recording, but oh well, we'll put up with it. So descending down nicely now, 5,000 feet per minute at 16,000 feet. And I said we're going to level off at 12,000 feet. And at that point, I'm going to put us on speed angle of attack. And I'm going to do that using the trim of all things. And then I'm not going to mess with the pitch of the aircraft at all. That's the key. Now this is actually kind of cool because if you can master this in one of the military jets like the F-18, it actually flows into all your GA flying as well. So trying to get a stabilized approach in a 737 is actually the same principle. You just don't have that angle of attack indicator and you don't have all the other tools that you have in a military jet to maintain that angle of attack that you need. But the principle is exactly the same. So 14,000 feet. In less than a minute, we'll be coming up on 12,000 feet. Going to keep on descending. Speed's coming back up, but that's fine. As we level off, the speed will bleed out down to 250, and then I can drop the gear and the flaps. So there's my 13,200 feet, so just over 1,000 feet to go. Still descending nicely at 180, trying to keep level. As you did see at the beginning of this video, with me having to cage the HUD, there is a crosswind here which will push me a little bit off course from time to time. 12,500. So I'm going to start gently pulling back on the stick now and get my velocity vector lined up squarely in the middle of my pitch ladder. 12,100. And that will mean I'm neither climbing or descending, and I'm just going to hold it there. Now I could, if I wanted to, just to hurry things up. I'm doing this slowly to show you the principle, but you can do this a lot quicker. Anyway, what I could at this point to speed things up is deploy my speed brake. I might do that. Let's put it out now. Just to get the speed down. Keeping that velocity vector centered as much as possible so I'm neither climbing or descending. And I'm doing that obviously with the joystick. Alright, so there's 250. We are dropping down now. So gear down and flaps down. So I'm now full gear, full flaps. Now because I've done that, you will see something called the E bracket appear. And the E bracket is how you measure your on-speed angle of attack as well. So I am going to pause it at this point. This is the E bracket. Okay. Now what you do is you use pitch trim to place this squarely in the center of that. When this is in the center of that, this will show a single circle. If the bottom light is lit up, you are too fast. If the top light is lit up, you are too slow. Similarly, with me underneath the pitch ladder now, I am too fast. If the flight vector here was above the pitch ladder, I would be too slow. So I'm going to try a hold level flight. There we go. So there's the too fast indicator. So I am using the joystick now to push the nose down and try to maintain level flight. And at this point, I'm going to trim the aircraft so I don't have to maintain so much forward pressure on the stick. There. So I'm all trimmed up. Notice the speed is coming down. Now the next bit, you need to be on the throttles. You need to have pretty good throttles as well. And you're going to try to bring the throttles up to what's called capture, the E bracket. So speed is dropping, speed is dropping. Everything's looking good. Here comes the E bracket now. And what I'm going to do is gently increase the throttle to about 60%. And now I'm using just pitch trim. So I'm trimming up. I want to get my flight vector in the middle of that E bracket. I'm going to come off the throttle a little bit. I'm still trimming. I am not moving my joystick. I am just trimming to get my flight vector in the center of the E bracket. And I'm still about 12,000, but we are descending, and that's fine because I want to get down now to my 10,600. So what I can do now with me trimmed up is I don't actually need to use the trim or the joystick at all. It's all done on the throttle. So you can see I'm descending at 1800 feet per minute. If I wanted to ease that rate of descent, I would increase power. So I just push both throttles forward. You will see my rate of descent now is decreasing. And the E bracket and the flight vector are both moving up. So I'm actually controlling my pitch with my throttle. And that's what you should be doing in a 737 and a 747 and a Cessna as well. Now I'm just putting in some nose down trim just to bring the flight vector squarely into the center of the E bracket. There. That's perfect. So I'm actually at on-speed angle of attack now. And I'm leveled at 11,400. So I'm going to pull back on the power. Gentle movements. Now there is a bit of a lag between the throttle movement, your physical throttle movement, and the response from the Hornet's engines. Be aware of that. So you tend to adjust throttle and wait, adjust throttle and wait, adjust throttle and wait. So quite a lot of power now. I'm 5 degrees down, which I don't want. And I'm going to level off at 10,600, which would be 600 feet above the ground. You know, because I'm pretending that 10,000 feet is the ground. Now, what I did there was I fell back on bad habits, and I did actually push the nose forward with the stick, and you saw I got out of on-speed angle of attack. You know, the flight vector started to move up and down in the E bracket, which is not good. Try to resist that, and that's actually the biggest challenge that you'll have as a virtual pilot, is resisting the urge to push or pull the nose. Don't do it. You're fighting against how the aircraft is trimmed. When you have it trimmed properly like this, with the flight vector in the middle of the E bracket, anything you do with pitch on the joystick is really fighting against how the aircraft is currently trimmed to fly. So you're just going to adjust throttle. If that flight vector moves up or down in the E bracket like it has a little bit there, just put a little bit of trim in. So a little bit of nose down trim there just to pop it down again. And I'm going to put in some roll because that wind is pushing me off course. I'm going to bring us back to 180. There's 10,600 and something. And there's 10,600. So quite a bit of power now. Not quite afterburner, but we're going to bring this all the way back up. I did go under where I wanted to be. That's fine. I'm still 600 feet above the virtual ground, as it were. So bit of power now. Bring the pitch up. Adjust my trim. Try to bring the flight vector back into the middle of the E bracket. Get back to 600 feet. And pulling off the power now. So now I'm just feeding in and out power to match what my flight vector is doing and trying to get it to stabilize in the center of the pitch ladder. So still feeding in quite a lot of power now, trying to arrest that descent. Now you can of course dive in at this point, take control of the pitch yourself with the joystick, but if you have enough time like I do, and this is the whole point of this video actually, is to give you an exercise that you can follow. And this is kind of the exercise that Lex gives in his video. I just modified it a little bit. So what I've spent hours doing this morning is just flying around, trying to remain at a constant altitude. You see I dropped there. Trying to remain at 10,600 without adjusting the pitch with the joystick, just using throttle. So I ease off the throttle there, it's going to start coming down. I'm going to start feeding back in the power now. Because that's dropping down, I want it to hold level. You can see it slowly, slowly, slowly coming down. A little bit less power, because we are climbing, but we want to be level at 10,600. You can see it dropping down to this bar. Now, feeding back in the power, back in the power, back in the power, back in the power, back in the power. And we're pretty much level. I'm only 30 feet under where I wanted to be, coming off the power there. Now, you are going to have some oscillation, obviously. For me, it's a windy day. For you, it could be any other number of factors as well. There is going to be some oscillation, but by and large, that's it. I'm at 10,600 feet on speed angle of attack. A little bit less power now just to bring this back a little bit and try to level up at 10,600 again, which is there. We're good. Let me pause this and show you what that looks like. So outside there, that is on speed angle of attack. You can see I'm at the correct angle now that should the hook be lowered, it would be level with the main gear. I'm going to touch down with the main gear and the hook at the same time. The hook isn't going to catch first and then snatch me onto the deck of the carrier. And I'm at the correct angle for that hook to catch a wire. This is the correct on-speed angle of attack to land at, be it on a normal runway or on an aircraft carrier. Now, the tricky bit is, if you're doing a carrier pattern, trying to get the correct altitude and maintain on-speed angle of attack throughout a turn. It's not that hard, but it does take a ton of practice. First of all, as you just saw, once you have on-speed angle of attack, you can adjust the throttle. That will adjust the pitch without touching the joystick at all, which is great. So I could at this point descend just by pulling back power. That's going to put me in a negative rate of descent, sorry, a negative vertical speed, so descending, and I can use the power to control that rate of descent. That's how I would descend towards a runway. Now, as I said at the start of this video, the flight vector here indicates where I will crash. So if there was a runway right there, what I would be aiming to do is try to put that on the runway and maintain the correct rate of descent over here. Now, doing it in a corner, in a turn, what I did for a couple of hours this morning is just try and practice level turns. So let me unpause this. We're at 180-ish. I'm going to put this over to about 30 degrees. Now, once I do that, once I turn this aircraft, I'm going to lose lift. So with the wings level like this, I have lift and it's pushing straight up, right? So I'm staying where I am. As soon as I tip the aircraft to the left, I'm going to lose that lift component. The lift is actually going to be pointing to the left, which means my nose is going to drop. So what I need to do is feed in a tiny bit of power, tiny to lift the nose up. And then I'm going to roll round to 30 degrees. And all I'm going to be doing is maintaining this little arrow, this little triangle here, and holding it on this 30 degrees just by adjusting my ailerons. So it's to roll left or to roll right and try to hold it right there. I don't want to be doing anything else. You will be tempted when the nose drops to pull back on the stick. Don't do that. You can do it all with the throttle and just with roll. So I'm probably going to mess this up. We'll roll. I put in a bit of climb there by putting in a bit of power. So we're going to roll round to 30 degrees. Now I'm just adjusting my rate of roll. I'm not pulling back on the stick or anything, but what I am doing is increasing the throttle because I am descending at 1,000 feet per minute right now. So I'm going to feed in quite a lot of power now. You can see everything's coming back up. My rate of descent is decreasing. I have started to go over on my roll, so I'm going to pull it back. I'm going to come off the power at this point. There we go. So now we have a climb. I'm going to get back up to 10,600. This is what I advocate practicing a lot. Try to maintain a level turn. So we're back up at 10,600 now. So I'm coming off the power. Down comes my flight vector. I am over-rolling once again. So I'm adjusting that rate of roll. There's my 10,600. I'm underneath now. And it's really just keeping an eye on this and keeping an eye on this. And you'll see why that's so important in a minute. So, a little bit less power, that is. A little bit less roll because I am starting to over-roll again, which is quite normal. 10,590. 10,600, so pretty much level. I have started to roll beyond that 30 degrees again, feeding in the power because as I roll out, my nose is starting to drop. Now this is a key. Once I reach my rollout angle, which in this case is going to be 0, 0, 0, I am going to snap the throttle shut and then bring them back to where I currently have them. I've found that in the sim at least to be an effective way of stabilizing the aircraft. So I'm rolling out now, snap my throttle shut, that stops me climbing, and then bring it back. And what you'll find is, oh, I brought it back a little bit too much. No, I didn't actually, we're good. We're going to end up back on 10,600 feet. Feeding in the power now to arrest this sharp drop of my flight vector underneath my pitch ladder. And then easing up on the throttle as it starts to climb to try to capture it in the middle here. And again, I'm 40 feet out, 50 feet out. It's not a huge deal. Now the reason that is so important, the reason I found this morning that is so important is if you can learn to focus on where this triangle is pointing and holding it at 30 degrees and adjusting your roll to keep it there and pay attention to this to make sure that you are in control of your rate of descent, you're not climbing or descending or anything like that. If you can do that and maintain a level flight, then you can do that to maintain a descending turn onto a runway. So let me try to show you. Badly. I'm still very new at this. I just was so excited after finding Lexi's video and practicing that I had to do my own and give you the frugal viewpoint. Alright, so we're going to get this back up to 10,600. So a bit more power. Up comes the flight vector. We are climbing. easing up on the power now. I don't want it to keep on climbing. Just want to kind of hold it there, right? 570, it's going to be 580 any second. There's 580. A bit more power because it is dropping now. And again, there is that lag between you feeding in a throttle input and the aircraft responding that you need to compensate for. And that just takes practice. There we go, 10,600. So easing up on my power a little bit, a tiny bit. I mean, I'm going to go over, but then I'm going to go under once it kind of porpoises along trying to sort itself out. So 000 is my heading. I am going to do the turn now as if I were going to land. Now the idea here is, and the reason I'm using a cardinal heading, like north or south or east or west, is it's just very easy to keep track of where I'm at. What I want to do, I'm going to turn to the left. I want to be descending at 500 feet per minute. So I'm going to, again, practicing what we just did, holding this arrow on 30 degrees and monitoring this, right? I'm going to try to maintain a constant rate of bank. I'm going to try to get this to stabilize around 500 feet per minute. It will fluctuate, don't panic. What I want is 90 degrees through the turn. So at heading 270, I want to be at 450 feet. So this is going to read 10,450, hopefully. At 180 degrees through the turn, so I'm now lined up on the runway, or 190 if we're landing on a carrier, I want to be at 300 feet, so 10,300. And the way to do that, as I just said, is to maintain that rate of descent of 500 and to maintain your bank. So it's probably going to go horribly wrong, but here we go. So a bit of power to bring the nose up above the horizon. There. Then roll across the 30 degrees. Maintain the roll. And watch your rate of descent. So feeding in the power now, it is dropping down as it should. And I want 500 feet per minute. There-ish. It's easing up, so a little bit less power. Gonna fix my roll. No pitch, just roll. So I wanted 450 feet at 270. I'm currently 520 feet at 270. Sorry, at 290, my apologies. So here we go on 270 now, and I am 450. So now we'll keep on rolling around, and I should come out at 180 if I maintain my rate of descent, which I just lost track of, at 300 feet. I'm going to be under because I did lose track of my rate of descent, but that's fine. What we can do now is feed in power and try to stabilize us at the 300 feet. Because we know that adding power increases pitch. All we need to do is maintain that constant rate of turn. Obviously, if you were landing a carrier, you wouldn't be going 180 degrees in the turn, you'd be going 190 degrees in the turn because of the offset for the runway on top of the carrier. And there we go, 180. Now, cut the throttle and then smoothly bring it back in as we roll out. And we're good. So there we go, 10,300 feet at 180. I've still got a lot of practice to do before I can finish this and land. Oh, I pulled back on the stick. Did you see that? I pulled back on the stick and the top light came on indicating too slow. I've still got a lot of practice to do before I can finish this and actually land on the carrier, but I wanted to give you guys what I've found so far. So the key is trim the flight vector into the middle of the E bracket, not use pitch. And then you're just using power to control your rate of climb or descent, effectively using power to control the pitch of the aircraft, not the joystick. And that's how you maintain on-speed angle of attack in a pattern. It's actually kind of cool. It's worth practicing. And as I said, if you master this, I can't help but feel this is going to really benefit everything you do in those GA aircraft. In fact, any aircraft that you fly, be it in DCS World, X-Plane FSX Prepared or whatever else. It's very, very cool. That's it. As always, my name is Frugal. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you all very soon.